Hello, everyone, and welcome to Engineered to Ask, brought to you by the College of Engineering at the University of Nevada, Reno. This is your host, Anthony Kuhl, and with me today is Jason Shaffer from ClickBond. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing fine as well. So today, we're going to dive into the field of industrial engineering, and Jason is going to help us get a better understanding of what this area of engineering is really all about. But before we dive into our main topic today, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to the field of engineering in the first place?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in how things work and solving problems, understanding things at a deeper level. When I was in high school, I went part-time to the technical college and studied welding. So when I graduated high school, I also graduated with a degree in welding.
Oh, really?
So I was working as a welder in different weld shops and working closely with the engineers. And a lot of times, they'd bring out a drawing or a print. And if I followed the print to weld up this big container, they were all internal welds. So I'd be stuck inside this thing forever. And so I go up front like, hey, so you want me to live in this tank forever? Is that the plan here, man? And so after a few interactions like that, I realized these guys aren't anything special. I can go be an engineer. And so I went to school to learn how to be a real engineer. And kind of the rest is history. I've worked in a lot of different industries, a lot of different areas, and really found my passion, energy around industrial engineering.
Wow. And I think that actually brings us neatly into our main topic for today. How does it differentiate itself from other fields of engineering, like mechanical or electrical, fields that people tend to know the gist of a little better?
Yeah, so I think the differentiator between engineering fields is hard because they're all so similar. Because at their base, engineers solve problems.
Yeah.
That's what an engineer is. We solve problems. If you're an aerospace engineer, you solve aerospace problems. If you're a chemical engineer, you solve chemical engineer problems. If you're an industrial engineer, you're solving all the kinds of problems. Industrial engineers work a lot with different people. And we go into an area and we help them solve their problems. That's why you'll hear of industrial engineers working in healthcare. There was a big push, in the early 2000s to drive ER wait times down. And what they did is they brought a bunch of industrial engineers into hospitals and worked with the nurses and the admins and to figure out, why are people waiting? Is there something with the paperwork? Is there something we can do to streamline these processes? So it's not just working in a production floor in a factory. You're working in healthcare. You can work in automotive, aerospace. So industrial engineers, we're like master problem solvers. We connect people and we get to the root of problems using data analysis and just talking to people and just common sense to really get to the root of a problem.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, with the field of industrial engineering, how is it evolving to sort of absorb new technologies like automation, robotics, artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so industrial engineering is, like I said, at the root of it, it's solving problems. And keeping up with the pace of technology is a big piece of being able to solve more and more complicated problems. So that's a hard thing to do, is to focus on solving a problem, but also learning new things. And the introduction of robotics into a process is actually really great for everybody. A lot of people get worried and they think that, if I automate this process, a bunch of people are going to lose their job. Well, actually, the way to look at it is you're going to upskill people. People are going to go from doing something by hand, manually, to being able to do it with the robot. They'll learn how to take care of the robot, how to troubleshoot it. And it's actually a higher paying position. So what we actually see is when we introduce robotics and automation into production processes, the quality of life for the employee, for the production line worker, actually increases because now they're able to command more pay for the work they do.
Yeah.
But it's more interesting as well, right? Instead of sitting around a table doing the same thing thousands of times a day, you're now just monitoring a robot, making sure that it does that correctly. So that's a big piece of it. Now you mentioned an interesting thing, AI. AI is really good at helping people brainstorm lots of possible things really quickly. And so if you go back to that, at the root of what an engineer is a problem solver. So no longer do you have to worry about just solving problems on your own if you are in a small company, or and maybe if you're in a big company and you don't have people you can talk to, you can open up any one of these chat bots and have a pretty informed conversation with them to help you start the problem solving process. That's one application that we've started using in ClickBot.
So, how would, like, let's say, for instance, how would an industrial engineer like bridge the gap between prototypes and like full scale production?
Yeah, I mean that is where industrial engineers bring a lot of value. Being able to look at this cool idea that someone had, right? They designed it in their garage on a 3D printer, right? And then you take that thing and you say, well, if I have to make 1,000,000 of these, what's the cheapest, fastest, safest way to do that? And so an industrial engineer, the more experience you get, the more exposure to lots of different types of manufacturing processes you get. You know, injection molding and stamping and machining and additive manufacturing, 3D printing, those kinds of things. You start to understand those processes really well. And then what you can do is you can take that knowledge and apply it to those prototypes, to those new ideas that people have. And you can make their vision a reality, right? That we're really in the business of solving problems and making dreams reality. That's an industrial engineer, working with people to accomplish those tasks. You don't do anything in a vacuum as an industrial engineer, because you may have a really good idea of what the process can do,
Yeah.
but when he designed it on the 3D printer, he add a feature that's just really hard to manufacture. So you go back to the designer and say, hey, this works really good on a 3D printer, but now I have to injection mold it and I can't do it that way. Can we move it? Can we change it? And so you get a lot of interaction in the design process, which, you know, a lot of guys think that, you know, I want to go and design the next Tesla, or I want to design the next rocket or the next F-35. Those types of people that are working on those programs, you know, you study aerospace engineering and you graduate with an aerospace engineering degree, you think you're going to go design the next F-22. Realistically, you're going to get given a very small component. You're going to work on a small team on a small component, and then that component will get given to another team, will integrate it into a larger system and a larger system until it gets to the very end where it's a full system. An industrial engineer, we get to work on the whole system. We get to work on the whole process. Being an industrial engineer in the aerospace industry, I've walked the F-35 line. I've seen how the F-35 gets made.
Really?
I've been in Nestle USA. I've made Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I've made Stouffer lean cuisine. I've made pet food. I've made things that go up to space, things that go deep in the earth, oil and gas, things that handle nuclear waste, things that handle food. That's really kind of the power of an industrial engineer, is being able to scale across all those different types of industries and sectors and work with people to make their dreams and their visions a reality.
That's really fascinating. So, for our students, what sort of direction do you think they should be going towards? If industrial engineering is what they believe is going to be the future for them, what sort of coursework or, you know, internship work, that sort of thing, what should they be pursuing in the interim while they're in college to try and line themselves up to be an industrial engineer?
Yeah. So if we go back, you know, again, just to reiterate, engineers are problem solvers. So if you're someone who likes solving problems, if you look at something and you're like, I can make this widget better, or I could fix the door on my car's not working, I'm going to fix it, right? If you have that mindset, you're already kind of pre-qualified to be an engineer. Now, I'm biased, but industrial engineering is the best of all the engineerings, because you get to do anything and work with all the different people and in any industry you want to work in. So how would you get to be really qualified to be an industrial engineer? Industrial engineers really work to make decisions based off of data, right? You can have a wealth of experience and think that this could be the right answer, but if you aren't able to analyze large data sets, then that's going to be difficult to make a really good decision that you know is going to solve the problem. And so that's a kind of a key differentiator between like mechanical engineering and industrial engineering as well. These guys go down the path of linear algebra and really complicated calculus, and industrial engineer splits off and does statistics. So if you like statistics and statistical analysis, this is a great place to kind of do a practical application of statistics. Another thing that I would say is really important is getting an internship or getting a job, a summer job, working in a factory, right?
Really?
Learning how things are made, right? Remember I said a big part of being an industrial engineer is learning how to make people's dreams and visions into a reality.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So if you're someone who likes to build things, weld, machine, tinker, 3D print, you're learning how things get made. You're learning how things get assembled. And so a way to kind of accelerate that learning is not just in the classroom, but go get a job somewhere. Even if you're just working on a production line, assembling a product, you're going to learn so much about engineering and how things go together and how companies work and how processes function. And they're going to pay you, right? Instead of paying to learn something, you're going to get paid to learn. And so I'm always a big advocate. When I see resumes come across my desk for people who want to work with us at ClickBond, and I see that they've been a production worker and they've studied engineering, they move to the top of the stack, honestly.
Just having that extra physical experience, that hands-on work, just helps immensely in this field then.
Yeah, because you're able to connect to the people. And that, I think, is another large differentiator for industrial engineering is if you like to connect to people, right? Mm-hmm. So your job as an industrial engineer is to solve industrial problems. And the customers of these industrial systems a lot of times are factory production line workers. And so as an industrial engineer, your job is to go to the shop floor oftentimes and evaluate systems that have been deployed, right? So we talked a lot about new product design and how you make a new thing happen. Yeah, there's a lot of work there, but there's a lot of companies that have been around for a really long time making things that we use every day, spoons, forks, anything, right? There's a factory somewhere that's making those things.
Absolutely, yeah.
An industrial engineer, there's not going to be a new innovation with a fork. I mean, the spork came out, right? I guess that was cool, but like that factory still needs an industrial engineer to walk that factory floor and to see what the workers are doing on a day in, day out basis and look at how they're doing that work and say, you know what? That looks like a safety risk. That looks like an ergonomic risk. Or, hey, if we do it like this, we can make more forks, which means we make more money, which means people get paid more money.
Yep.
How could we introduce automation into this process? And if you've been on the shop floor and you've been that person doing that job, then when you come back around to improve that job, you'll have an even better connection to the people. And so an industrial engineer solves problems for people today. Other engineers are working on problems and things to design a product that may impact people's lives in 10 years. You don't know. It may not ever, right? You may design some really cool thing that's abstract and maybe never comes to fruition. Mm-hmm. An industrial engineer works with people today to solve the problems that are plaguing them today.
Wow. Well, I know for certain I definitely learned a ton about industrial engineering. Thank you so much, Jason, for coming on the podcast today. We greatly appreciate you stopping by. Now, if you'd like to know how you can get involved with this sort of work and more here at the University of Nevada, Reno, you can visit our website. Links will be in the description. And if you liked this discussion and would like to hear other interesting engineering-related topics, please comment and subscribe. It's the easiest way of keeping up with the series and letting us know we're doing a good job. Until then, this has been Engineered to Ask.